According to the letter of St. James, which we read today, faith without works is dead. So faith without works is dead, St. James says. And so, it's not enough. It's not enough to pray and love God. We must also love each other. It's not enough to think about and know the teachings of the church intellectually. We must actually live out the teachings, which includes helping others. It is not enough to want to give to the church. We must actually give. We must actually give of our time, of our money, of ourselves to build up the church. It's not enough to want healing for ourselves. We must also want healing for others, which means praying with others for healing, encouraging others to be prayed with for healing, encouraging others to help them understand that God can heal them, that He does want to heal them, that He will heal them as they trust in Him. So if we don't have works, then our faith is dead. Our faith is dead without actually living it. And so we don't want to have dead faith, and we want to have a faith that's alive. We want to have a faith that is active, a faith that is growing, a faith that's reaching out to others. This is the kind of faith we want. And so this is the kind of faith that continues to develop within us. God is giving us this gift of faith. It's a gift that we receive throughout our whole lives. And at certain points in our lives, it's very, very important to continue to receive that gift of faith that is alive, that is active, that is growing within us. In the gospel today, according to Jesus, He says, if you want to follow me, then deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And what He's saying is, you're going to lose your life for my sake in the gospel, but if you lose your life for my sake in the gospel, you will actually save your life. And you could gain the whole world and lose your life, and what would you gain? What would you gain if you gain the whole world and lose your life? You would gain nothing. And sometimes in response to this call of Jesus to come and follow Him, we end up saying things like, yes, but Jesus, I want an easy life. I don't really want to suffer. I don't really want to struggle. I want everything to go well for me and my family and my friends. And of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting that, but the reality is that we are going to suffer. We are going to struggle. Not everything is going to go well all the time. And it's really in those times that we're going to find out how much faith we have. And when we find ourselves, saying, I don't want to suffer, I don't want to struggle, Jesus says in response to us, what I want is your whole life. I want to come and dwell in your heart. I want to walk with you, and I will walk with you in your sufferings, in this struggle, in the challenges that you face. And I would say, brothers and sisters, that this is real faith. This is what it really means to follow Jesus. It means laying down everything. It means surrendering. It means loving those that you don't want to love. It means trusting Him when everything seems to be going wrong. Anyone can have faith when things are going well. And they can see what God is doing. When I can see what God is doing, it's easy to have faith, especially if things are going well. But real faith actually happens when things aren't going well, and when you can't see what God is doing. That's when you find out how deep your faith really is. And I believe there's actually a difference. There's a difference between childish faith and adult faith. There's a difference between immature faith and mature faith. And there's a difference between untested faith and tested faith. And in the end, we want that adult faith, that mature faith, that tested faith. And Jesus calls us to that. He says, I want you to go from the faith of a child to the faith of an adult. I want you to go from immature faith to mature faith. I want you to go from a faith that hasn't been tested to a faith that has gone through the ups and downs, the peaks and the valleys, the good times and the bad. And I believe actually that many of us here already have that kind of faith. And yet we're going to continue to be tested. We're going to continue to go through the ups and downs, the good times and the bad, the peaks and the valleys. And, we continue to get to choose if we're going to follow the Lord, and we especially choose in those times. And maybe you're in a time like that right now, where He's inviting you to choose Him, to give Him everything, to surrender to Him, to give Him your whole life. And if you're not in that time like that at this moment, I believe you will be in the future. Again, especially when the challenges come. When I look at my own life, I can point to different times in my life where I had to choose again. Initially, my faith journey in many ways started when I was 16. I went on a retreat. I experienced God in a personal way. I gave my life to Him. My life has never been the same since then. And yet, since then, there have been many, many times where I had to keep choosing Him. And there are key times that I can point to in my life when I had to choose Him. When I got to choose Him again, when things weren't so easy anymore, and I had to decide, am I going to follow you, Lord Jesus, right now, when everything seems to be falling apart? One of those times was actually when I was 20. When I was 20 years old, I developed a mental illness. This mental illness it shook my whole life. Everything fell apart in my life, and everything continued to fall apart in my life for about 5 years because there was no treatment for it, and I just kept struggling. And during those 5 years, there were many, many times where I had to keep saying, you know what? I don't understand what's going on here. I don't know why this is happening, but I'm going to continue to trust you. When I was 27, I entered religious life. I left my home state of Indiana and moved to Pennsylvania. My life, I knew, would never be the same again. And it wasn't. And there was an opportunity there, to give my life to God in a new way. When I was 30, I went to seminary. Again, going to seminary, moving into this formal time of preparation for the priesthood was another opportunity to give my life to God. I got ordained when I was 34, and again, my life changed forever as I became a priest. And as my life has gone on, there have just been many times actually where I had to keep making that choice. And so, I'm challenging you to make that choice, to keep making that choice, to keep choosing the Lord. And, when I look back on my life, if I had it to do over again, I would still follow Him. I would still follow Him. I do not regret following Him at all. And I also can say that following Him has led to many adventures, and it continues to lead to many adventures. And all the best adventure stories, a lot of times we remember the good parts of these adventure stories, but all the adventure stories, the famous ones, they always have extremely difficult times. And some of you might be in extremely difficult times right now. And if you are, I just challenge you again to not be afraid, to give him your whole life. And if you're not right now, most likely you will be in the future. And when that time comes, I pray that you are able to give him your whole life, to give it to him anew, to give it to him more completely, to give him your whole heart, to give him your past, your present, your future, to give him your whole life. For he has given his life for us. And that's what we celebrate at every Mass. That's what we give thanks for at every Mass. And we give thanks for that today as well.